All right, we'll bring in Caroline Marcus now to discuss what she found being out there at the centre today. Caroline, I have to ask some tough questions here. Yes, they talk about recidivism being lower, but it is generally lower in the female population anyway. What's the deterrent factor if, you can be living out there in the community, commit a crime, you then can move into this sort of housing with your child, the taxpayer covers the roof over your head, and the food that you're cooking in probably circumstances that are better in most low-income families around the country. You're safe, you're protected, you're locked up and you've got security. As I said, what's the deterrent?
Well, look, I think, Peter, a lot of people will be asking that question. And certainly there are multiple studies that the authorities point to which suggest that women prisoners who are able to keep up their bonds with families, including with children, have a better chance of going back into the community and being able to function as a law-abiding citizen, including reducing the rate of offending. Although they couldn't give me exact details, the current rate of recidivism at the moment is 42% for female prisoners. So it's pretty high, the chance of reoffending within the first 12 months after leaving, but apparently it's minimal if they take part in a program like this. So the benefits to them and to the community more widely could be there. But in terms of it being a deterrent, well, certainly one mother I spoke to who's part of this program, she's got a 7-month-old baby with her. She's pregnant with her second child. She deliberately, she said, decided to get pregnant before serving her sentence. She said she didn't know how long she'd be sentenced for, but she was awaiting her court case to be heard. And it was a deliberate act to try and get pregnant, but it was more because she said she wanted a second child and she didn't know how long she'd go away for. But she admitted that it was an easier experience for her than it would be being part of the general prison population. So, look, whether it's a deterrent for these women or not is one matter. There's also the issue, Peter, that at the end of last year in October, there were sentencing reforms that came out which mean that more women who are pregnant are getting intensive corrective orders where they can serve their time in the community already. So there are already fewer women in prison at the moment who are pregnant. Again, begs the question, are there benefits to getting knocked up once you've committed a crime?
Yeah, just on the recidivism numbers there for female prisoners, that's the general population, not just these women. 42%, you can say, well, that's not great, but it means that 60% are not recommitting crime. So I think that, sometimes we look at the number in the error as opposed to the number in the opportunity, and 60 is a good number. But I'm surprised if this program's been going since 1996 and the government's just made another multi-million-dollar financial commitment to keeping it operating, why they don't actually have hard data on the examples coming out of Jacaranda cottages. Did you pursue the minister over he claims a success rate. What is the success rate?
Well, they say, first of all, that the things have changed with the reforms that came in at the end of last year, and not enough time has passed since then to see how the reforms have made a difference. But that's in terms of sentencing. In terms of recidivism, they couldn't be more exact. I did try and get figures from the Minister and Corrective Services, but all they could say was that it was minimal. They just didn't have the data.
All right, what's the plan then from the Police Commissioner or the Corrective Services Commissioner to roll this out to high security prisons? Because, we just have the conversation in Victoria that if you want to be a woman, you can be a woman. If you want to be a man, you can be a man. What about children going into high security prisons, notwithstanding the fact there are women in there convicted of murder and other serious crimes? But you could have men, as we've seen overseas in many instances, increasing rates of men coming out of male prisons to identify as women in order to be moved to women's prisons. What's the worry there?
Well, look, I didn't ask specifically about cases of men transitioning into women, but...
I just mean the high security prisons. I just mean, the high security prisons.
Well, at the moment, the program is only running at Jacaranda Cottages, which is adjacent to Emu Plains. It's a minimum security facility, but what they want to do, what Peter Severin, the Corrective Services Commissioner, wants to do is roll out the program to higher security prisons, so medium or maximum security prisons. That would mean basically the children would be in a much more prison environment than the lovely surrounds that you just saw in that story. They would have much more secure perimeters, like the barbed wire. They have prison officers at this complex as well, but I think it would appear much more like a jail for the kids there. But again, there's a very thorough process whereby they assess the mothers being eligible for this program. So they get about 1 or 2 applications a month. Well, the Commissioner does. There's more that are weeded out before they even get to him. And they have to assess them on the basis of, are they going to be a risk to their children? Are the mothers a risk to the prison community and other mothers? They have to be assured that the mothers are capable of looking after their children. They do fax checks as well, that they... for the welfare of the child, and they have to be satisfied on all those grounds. So it's quite a thorough process in terms of who is able to get into this program in the first place. And they say that would continue for higher security prisons as well if it does get rolled out. But at the moment, it's just something that is being considered.
All right, I'll leave it there. Caroline Marcus, thanks very much for your insight and an exclusive look at what's happening out there at Emu Plains.
Thanks, Peter.
To say I'm not so convinced. I'm not so convinced. I think one of the reasons it keeps women out of prisons is the thought of being separated from their children, in particular young children, but this just makes it all a little bit too easy for me. But I could be wrong. We'll keep an open mind and watch it closely and see what happens, particularly if it's rolled out to higher security prisons.